What is going on, everybody? I know everyone's just getting hopping in right now, and we're getting in, so we'll let everyone kind of flow into the stream. Uh, not gonna be. It's a little bit of a downer episode, I would say. We're gonna talk about the injuries. We're gonna talk about the news from today, how it impacts us now, impacts the future, things like that. So I just wanted to get out in front of this injury stuff and start talking about it because unfortunately, um, it's feeling like the better part of a decade now that the 49ers have been plagued with injury after injury, it feels like. I know as fans, being a fan myself, of course, covering the team for a couple years now, um, it gets a little daunting at times. And here we are. We're in June. We're in OTAs, and it's being reported today that Justin School, offensive tackle, he's headed into his third year. He will likely miss the season with a torn ACL. Um, 49ers Focus had that first yesterday. I was able to confirm with a source in the middle of the night. I honestly didn't get much sleep. And it had nothing to do with the injuries or whatever. It's just kind of how everything played out. Um, I think I drank too much caffeine yesterday and I just couldn't fall asleep. And I saw Focus's report on School because I guess there's been some information going around in a group chat. So I decided to reach out to a source, and they confirmed Justin School tore his ACL in the early wee morning. I put out an article around 5 in the morning. No business being up that early. R.I.P. Georgie. Oh, Leo. R.I.P. Georgie. Oh man, that was a good story. But anyways, so it's been a long morning, long day. And then of course, I go to bed already knowing Justin School had been injured and tore his ACL. And then I wake up to find out that there was another injury. And that injury came to Tarvarius Moore, safety. He's in a contract year. This is a guy that was looking to really take that next step in his development, and just really, try and get on the field a little bit more. Had the opportunity to really compete, I believe, for the starting position across from Jimmy Ward. All indications this offseason is that it appears that the 49ers are kind of holding an open competition for that safety spot. Tart's only back on a 1-year deal. Marcel's on a 1-year deal. Tarvarius was in a contract year. The 49ers just signed Tony Jefferson. So it just kind of felt like that position was up for grabs in regards to competition. I would say Tart is kind of slotted in to be, the first starter of that group, and then we'll see how the competition evolves through training camp. But it's just a tough situation all the way around now because we're already losing key depth pieces. We've lost 3 key depth pieces so far from OTAs. I haven't even mentioned running back Jeff Wilson. He was an RB2 currently heading into the season. Tarvarius Moore, you could argue, was, next in line at safety. Him and Marcel kind of rotate in and out. Huge special teams contributor. Huge special teams contributor from Tarvarius Moore. So you lose that contribution there, and again, like I said, you lose a year of a young player trying to take that next step in his development. So it's just really hard. Not only as a fan, but for the player. You try to put yourself in the player's shoes. I can't imagine what Tarvarius Moore is going through. I asked Emmanuel Mosley about Tarvarius when I had done an interview with him, and he was talking about how he was putting in a ton of work this offseason. He was getting bigger, stronger, faster, all those kinds of things, getting smarter with the playbook. And so there was a little I wouldn't say hype, but like, all right, we want to hear that. We want to hear, our young players are taking that next step in their development. It's great to hear. And just a blow after blow after blow, it feels like. Because like I mentioned, as 49er fans, it feels constant since, honestly, ever since Kyle Shanahan took over. We had the injuries. You go back to Navarro Bowman. You can pinpoint a couple other pretty catastrophic injuries. Of course, everything that happened with Patrick Willis and Borland. And it just, the list goes on and on of you know players that have either had to retire due to injury, have never come back due to injury. I mean, like a Trent Taylor. The Jalen Hurd. If we're looking currently, like the list goes on and on. So it's just, and I'm not going to sit here and talk about and analyze why I think they're happening, because I've always been a big proponent of, as a player myself, and understanding injuries are a part of the game. It's 100% guarantee that you're going to be injured playing football. It comes with the territory. Players understand this going into it. That's why they put so much work into their bodies this offseason to try and mitigate those issues, because they want their bodies to be strong, to be able to withstand the wear and tear of these grueling seasons. But unfortunately, like I said, we're down 3 guys already. Trying to get out of OTAs. I like the call by the 49ers to cancel practice today. Typically, I think in the past, you would look at a situation where a team cancels practice, and you're like, ooh, that seems kind of like they're letting it get to their head. They're a little bit nervous. And one of the biggest things as a player yourself, if you're out there playing and you're worried about getting injured, it's just like the law of attraction or something. You likely will get injured. It's just, I don't know why it happens or how it occurs, but when your mind is like thinking of injury, it's weird how it works. And it's weird how things play out, but it almost feels like you're preconditioned to re-injure yourself if you're mentally worried about injuries. I've seen it time and time again. It's happened to me personally. So it's a tough situation. You got to be mentally strong through it. You got to be physically strong through it. And these guys have been playing football for all their lives. Who knows? Like, let's look at Tarvarius, for example. Tears his Achilles in a non-contact injury. Who knows how long that's been ready to go? Who knows? That could have been a minor injury that he's had for a while. He's played through. He's overcompensated using different muscles, which weakens the original injured muscle, and it becomes a trickle-down effect. And that happens a lot because players are conditioned to play through injury. It's just how we're wired as football players. You just play through injury. If you can play, if you can physically move and you can walk and you can do your responsibilities, you play football. That's just how it works. And you have to be mentally strong enough to be able to suppress the pain. And so as football players, you start building that mentality the second you throw the pads on. And if you really truly go after it and play the sport and do all these kinds of things, that becomes ingrained into you. For example, I tore my stage 3 shoulder tear snowboarding, and I was playing basketball for 5 times a week at that time. Got the surgery. I was laid up for about a month. It was about a 3 to 4 month recovery for the shoulder. I went out and played basketball with one arm. I don't care. But I know, like, looking back, how dumb that was, but 2, why I did it is because I was preconditioned to be able to play through injury from my playing days with football. Just preconditioned, like, can you go out and play with one arm? Yeah, I could go play with one arm, so I did it. And I think that's just how football players process injury. If they can go out and do it, they're going to go out and do it. That can then lead to, though, additional injury, an injury like this that can maybe pop up later down the road because you put so much strain on it. So it's just, it's the nature of the business. Unfortunately, it comes with the territory. It comes with being a football player. I don't think, because whenever this stuff happens, I've been covering this team long enough to understand that whenever these injuries happen, you're going to get the segment of the fan base that wants to fire the training staff. Well, I can tell you, as we've already lived this, we've already lived through this situation. When we were going down in, 2017, 2018, that was the call from most of the fan base. Fire the training staff. This is the training staff's fault. And I'm like, how do you fire a training staff and hold them accountable for someone who gets rolled up on in a pile? How do you hold a training staff accountable for someone who snaps their arm on a freak play? Like, how do you hold a training staff accountable for that? And that was my rally cry, during those couple years. But you know what? Guess what? The 49ers went ahead and they fired their training staff. They fired the entire strength and conditioning. They brought in a completely new system and, to really try and maybe pinpoint if that was really the issue. Clearly, I don't think that's the issue. It's just a steady stream of what is becoming to feel like bad luck in regards to injury. And I'll tell you a story about that whole firing situation. So, through this page and this account, I've been able to make awesome connections, meet great people, and people have been so generous with me. And one of the guys through this account, it was cool. He reached out to me literally on Christmas. He's like, "Hey, bro, I love the page, love what you do. I want to take you on a tour." He's like, "I got access everywhere. I want to take you on a tour." I was like, "Hell yeah, let's go." So I go to Levi Stadium. That was when I saw Jimmy working out, in the workout facility, and that was 2019 in January. So he was recovering from his ACL. He was in the building, got to see Jimmy working out. We were in the locker room. So I'm standing in the locker room. I'm looking at all the players' lockers and all that good stuff. And this guy walks out and comes up to the guy that I was with. And he's like, "Hey, dude, they just fired me." And I got to watch the two employees talk about go through literally one guy finding out that the other guy just got fired that day, right then and there, had all his bags and walking out the door. And I'm sitting there just like, wow, this is crazy. Because of course, like when you're a fan, you're, "Oh, fire these guys, fire him. Oh, this, that, and the other thing." But when you get to sit, like I literally watched it happen. And I feel like it allows you to get a little bit different perspective on these types of things. Because again, in that instance, how is this guy that just got fired responsible for all these injuries that happen in a game that is brutal as all hell? So when it comes to the whole firing thing, I'm not about it. I don't subscribe to it. I don't think that's the root cause issue here. I think the root cause issue is undefinable. I don't know how else to put it, because like I said, when you're playing football, it's inherently a sport. It's 100% guaranteed that you're going to get injured. So whatever's happening with the 49ers, Matt, you better watch yourself, boy. So whatever's happening with the 49ers, whatever's happening with this team and the the juju, like whatever you want to, you like, it just feels weird. It feels interesting. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I don't want to start throwing out like all the crazy, bad juju and Indian burial ground type stuff, but it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy. Because it feels like it's never ending. The silver lining though, is that it is OTAs. The silver lining is that it is early enough in the season to be able to recover. It's early enough in the year to be able to pivot. It's early enough in the year to get guys in here to be able to, again, I mean, you have to remember football, or I'll say the NFL in its nature, is transactional. So players come in and out all the time. So with that being said, I would imagine that if these injuries have to occur, and they're going to occur, it's at least better that they're happening now. It's better for the players. For these guys like a Tarvarius Moore tears his Achilles, that's likely, a season ender. But he should be ready to go for the next season. Same thing with Justin School. So you're trying to look at the silver lining of all these injuries and these issues. But sometimes it's just a string of unfortunate circumstance, which kind of feels like what we're up against. Obviously, when it happens with so much regularity, you start to question the hows and the whys, and what you start to analyze. Well, how are they practicing? What are they doing in practice? Are they being too physical in practice? There's a rumor flying around that a former wide receiver got cut because he spoke about how physical they are in practice. So I don't know. I don't know how. I'm not going to be here and be the one to tell you why this is all happening. We'll talk about it though. And we'll take a look. And of course, I'll look at your guys' questions. I've just been kind of going on a rant here, but I'll start to open it up and start to look for your guys' input, and we'll talk about, and we'll start opening it up to having a conversation, and go from there. But it just sucks, man. I don't wish injury on my worst enemies. I don't wish injury on Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, like trying to think of someone that I really despise. Oh, like a Jalen Ramsey. I really don't like Jalen Ramsey, but I would never wish a season-ending injury for a player. Your window in the NFL is so short. It's so small. And 1 year, we talked about it yesterday, 1 year is huge. That could be 50% of your playing career. So to lose out on that, it's just really, really difficult, especially for these fringe guys. I know why I say fringe, just not starters. But boy, oh boy, not the news that we wanted to start our day with. Not the news that we wanted to go about our business with today. We were supposed to be getting more media coverage from OTAs. We were supposed to be able to get a little bit more video, see these guys in action, be a little bit more hyped. But as we've talked about, the 49ers have decided to kill the practice and do a team bonding thing. I just think that, it says a lot that the team is going to go ahead and cancel practice. Because again, they understand what's going on, and they can't afford to lose any more guys at this stage in the game. And mandatory mini camp is right around the corner. I believe believe that's when the shells come out, helmets and shoulder pads. I'm not positive. And that's when the actual hitting starts. But I prefer that. And I'll talk about that for a second. I would much rather prefer these practices to be in shells, which means helmet, shoulder pads, and no pads on your legs or whatever. Because it gives you a sense of light, but you're still allowed to hit and be physical, which is football. And when you're going, let's say, 1-on-1, O-line, D-line in shirts and shorts, it's just a tough situation for everyone involved. When you can't, lead with your head, when you can't really punch and grab onto shoulder pads, it's really a disadvantage for an offensive lineman. And one-on-ones in shorts and shirts just sucks straight up when it comes to an offensive lineman perspective. So it's going to be interesting to kind of hear where and how school went down if that information does become available. I hope it wasn't in that situation, but it's just like I said, I would just, unless you're just doing pure walkthroughs, like just wear helmet and shoulder pads and just practice. Not a big fan of practicing and like being physical without pads. Just because it's not the same. It's a lot different. It's extremely different. So yeah, it's just a tough situation. Kermal asks if the practice is just canceled for today or all week. As of right now, it's today. It could as we understand it, the availability for media got pushed till tomorrow. So it sounds like practice will be open tomorrow to the media to be there, and of course, watch the opening sessions of practice. And I believe Kyle Shanahan will be available, so we will be able to hear from Kyle tomorrow on these injuries. I'm sure they're going to ask him why these injuries keep happening. I'm sure they're going to ask him, do you have plans to change your strength and conditioning staff? Because this is clearly something that has been following, I want to say following Kyle, but it feels like ever since Kyle got here in 2017, the injuries have went to another level. But like I said, they've always kind of been there. It's just been a weird decade for the 49ers when it comes to staying healthy. And God, it's a tough situation. I feel for these guys. I feel for the teammates. It's one of the worst feelings when one of your brothers goes down. Especially when you've been working all off season. You guys are excited about playing together. You're talking about like, oh, dude, this season's going to be so cool because it's going to be me and you. We're going to be wrecking shop. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then everything changes. And it's insane how that can affect the outcome of a lot of different things. And we saw that in 2020. We saw that, in 2018. 2017, we saw in 2019, but we were able to work through 2019 with guys like Justin School stepping up, guys like Brunskill stepping up, guys like Ross Dwelley stepping up. All kinds of guys stepped up in 2019 when we had to deal with a lot of injuries. So I guess that's the rallying cry this year. One of the things that we've talked about, after free agency, after the draft is, we like the depth of this team across the board, almost at every position. I think every position has been either replenished or had depth added to it or solid competition added to it. So I think based on any of the years thus far, I think this is the strongest depth that we've had going into OTAs, going into training camp. Now it's going to get tested. We're going to find out. We're going to find out what this depth looks like. Again, I would say RB2 right now is Wayne Gallman. I think Trey Sermon's got to earn that job. Of course, being a third-round pick, getting traded up for, you're going to be slotted into a role very quickly and likely soon. But at the end of the day, football's football, and hopefully competition reigns supreme. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the running back. With school going down, likely you're looking at Jalen Moore kind of becoming more of your go-to swing tackle potentially. Brunskill goes back, like becomes more valuable again than ever, because he can play all 5 spots across the offensive line. Man, it's a tough situation. But we're gonna see how it all plays out. And then of course, we've talked about Tarvarius Moore a little bit, the depth behind him. They, of course, re-signed or brought in Tony Jefferson, which I thought was a really good signing. But I wouldn't be shocked to see one more safety added. Wouldn't be shocked to see one more running back added, and wouldn't be shocked to see another offensive lineman added. Because I expect Tarvarius to hit IR. I expect School to hit IR. And then I don't know if Wilson will land on short-term IR. I imagine that's the likely outcome. But, man, it's just a tough situation. It's just really tough with these injuries, man. The injury bug is showing up early. We got to squash that thing. It's either that, we got to either squash the injury bug or just have depth on depth on depth. And as of right now, I'm leaning toward depth on depth on depth. Get as much depth and quality players at every position as possible. So we'll see. Do I think Cyprian will be back? I don't. One sleeper to keep an eye on, Jared Maiden, undrafted free agent last year. Actually would have gotten some snaps last year. Yes, but, he got injured, missed a lot of the year, which was unfortunate because it would have been a great primer for him to get some in-season snaps and some opportunities. I like Jared. I think he makes the roster. I think he kind of fills this Tarvarius Moore role, in regards to special teams. I think Jared Maiden probably benefits the most out of this injury because, like I said, Tarvarius Moore held a key special teams role, and now they're going to have to find someone else to slot into that. Do you put Tony Jefferson, the older 29-year-old guy coming off, not playing in 2020? Do you have him playing a bunch of special team snaps? I don't think so. So I think Jared Maiden has a big opportunity in front of him. He had some opportunity last year. Yeah, Maiden's from Alabama. Like I said, he's an undrafted free agent. He came on strong in camp. And I believe he would have been, he got cut, didn't make the final 53, was added to the practice squad, and I believe would have been called up for game time action early. But unfortunately he got injured, and wasn't able to come back for the remainder of the year. Right. Story of our life. So I know these players are going through it. I know the coaching staff is going through it. I'm sure ownership is going through it, of just like, what's going on, man? Trying to rack their brains, because I feel like in this, what level they're at, they're in the business of solutions. They want a problem arises, they want a solution to fix it. This situation, however, is one that, unless you are in the building with detailed knowledge of every contextual understanding that goes into every single injury, I just don't know how you pinpoint and try and really discern how these things are happening and why they're happening, X, Y, and Z, etc. So just a big bummer. So the hope is now, right, is just Gotta stay healthy, man. Just gotta stay healthy. Because I remember last year. I remember when Deebo Samuel broke his foot. Around I believe it was like May or April. It just instantly that sickness in the pit of your stomach, like instantly just came back for me at least. Because when Deebo broke his foot, I was like, oh no, here we go again. You know, like that meme, like from GTA, like, here we go again. Like when that happened, I did not feel good. It gave me a bad vibe for the entire season. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't put it out there. I didn't put it into the universe. I didn't say it. I didn't do all that. But I'll be 100. Looking back, when Deebo broke his foot, man, oh my goodness, I was like, this is not good. And it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. And of course, we know, I'm not saying there's any correlation, but 2020 was what it was. So now, I mean, we haven't, and I think part of the feelings around Deebo's injury is because I think Deebo was such a stud as a rookie. And year 2, you're expecting him to take the jump, especially being the main wide receiver 1 in the offense. And he had a ton of upside, ton of hype going into the season. So it was just tough, man. It was a tough situation. And then, of course, after that steamrolled into Jalen Hurd, tearing his ACL. I mean, sheesh, bro. Like, sucks. Yeah, Bree was excited for more. Says he's a powerhouse. I mean, like I was saying earlier when I was talking to Emmanuel Mosley, he got me a little hyped up for more when we spoke. But yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough because from everything I heard, these guys were taking, noticeably seeing a difference in Tarvarius Moore from what I've heard. And it sounded like he was primed to come in and have a good season, whether that was as a rotational player, whether as that was gaining the starting role at safety over Tart, or just being a really solid special teams player, which is one third of the game. It's a phase that matters a lot. So it's just sucks, man. Chase asks, who do I think takes School's spot? I think that's a Jalen Moore situation, because I think Jalen Moore is actually really good at pass protection. Even though he's slotted to come in and play guard in the NFL, I feel like in this situation, it's either going to be Brunskill. Go away, alarm. It's either going to be Brunskill or it's going to be Jalen Moore at this point. I'd have to re-look at the roster to see which swing tackles are hiding out there, but there's really no one that comes to mind other than those guys. I know Sean Coleman. I don't have an opinion on Sean Coleman because I believe he's been injured for 2 years, opted out. Like, we haven't seen Sean Coleman, I don't think, really ever on this team. So it's really hard to discern what he's going to be. I believe he was an opt-out in 2020. We've never seen him. And it's been a couple years at this point. I'm pulling up the O-line depth right now. We have guys. I mean, of course, we signed Alfredo Gutierrez, the 6'9" monster out of Mexico. But again, I think it's too early at this point to really truly understand how he translates into the NFL game. I watched some of the tape and his highlight huddle tape in Mexico, and he demolished dudes like insane. But you can tell the level of competition is not even, I don't even know if it's college level. It's just, you could tell the guys he was going against were not quality football players. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. But essentially, I'll run down the list of offensive linemen that are currently listed on the 49ers roster, and we can kind of go down and see what we think. But we have, starting at the top, Aaron Banks, of course, second round pick. He is likely going to be competing for one of the guard spots, so I don't necessarily see him being like a tackle play. Jake Brendel out of UCLA, headed into year 3, 6'4", 299. I don't know enough about him to even have much of an opinion to know if he could play well enough to take over a swing tackle role. Like I said, Daniel Brunskill is, I feel like, going to be this offensive line's sixth man. If he can't hold out Banks, if Banks takes over that right guard spot, Daniel Brunskill, whether he's starting or not, is invaluable. So we need to keep Brunskill healthy and upright, because, like I said, if he for whatever reason can't hold off Banks and Banks takes over the starting guard spot at right guard, that doesn't mean Daniel Brunskill becomes like any less of a player. He becomes almost more important in a certain sense, because like I said, he then becomes the sixth man of the offensive line unit, because he can play at all 5 spots. He can play both tackle spots, both guard spots, and center. Tom Compton, we resigned this year. He was with us last year. If Tom Compton is playing, 49ers should be very nervous. I think Tom Compton is far past being able to provide any starting quality reps from him. Corbin Kufusi, 1-year player out of BYU, dude, 6'9", 270. Okay, we're back. I don't know what happened with my stream on YouTube, but we're back. So also, though, Dakota Shepley, one of my guys, 6. I don't know if he would consider himself a tackle. I kind of look at him as like a center guard option. He is a guy that came from the Canadian Football League, and he looks like a player. So he could be a guy that steps up. Just again, some inexperience with watching these guys. What's up, GK Nation? So looking down the list, we also have Isaiah Williams. No one of note. So honestly, if we're looking at swing tackle options, I am looking at Dakota Shepley, Jalen Moore, and Brunskill. That's kind of what we're looking at right now. Obviously, like I said, just a little bit of experience with some of the other guys. But with what I do know of the other guys, those are who I kind of see being the guys to come in and maybe see some snaps this year. So, man, crazy. Oh, and again, no, Sean Coleman. Sean Coleman is on the roster. He was listed down a little bit further. Sean Coleman, 6'5", 310. So, I don't know. Sean Coleman was brought in here, I believe, like 3 years ago, to be the primary swing tackle, and I don't think he's ever seen the field. I think that was like 3 years ago. Yeah. So again, just really hard to forecast this situation. Yeah, I mean, Sean Coleman's a former third round pick. He was drafted in 2016. We traded for him in 2018. He was placed injured reserve 2019, and then opted out in 2020. So just haven't seen him. So maybe we got a little diamond sitting on the roster, but again, it's hard to tell when you don't see these guys. It's hard to tell, and when they're just buried or injured, or you don't know how they're going to respond. You don't know if they're going to come back. So it's a tough situation. And obviously, offensive line depth is, in my opinion, the hardest thing to have in the NFL. I mean, it's 5 spots. They typically only allow, you carry maybe 7, 8 offensive linemen. You don't even have a full 2 sets of offensive line during the season, which to me is absolutely ridiculous. If you're really trying to continue to have a quality game in the NFL and understanding how much the trenches mean, how much offensive line play means to the offenses being able to do anything, just seems like a weird situation to not be able to roster more players for a position group that carries 5 starters. But yet you only carry maybe 8 offensive linemen during the season. I don't like it. Never liked it. Never liked how the NFL has developed offensive linemen. I think it's a big issue that they have. But that's a tangent for another day. So again, back to the injury stuff. This is the injury episode, so we are just talking straight about injuries. Maybe some of the repercussions that come from it. It's going to be interesting to hear what Kyle Shanahan has to say tomorrow. I'm pretty interested to hear his thoughts on the injuries. Man, it's tough situation. I know the fans are feeling it. I know the players are feeling it. Coaches, like we talked about, family members, everything. You feel that stuff. Yes, Bree. Everyone needs a prayer circle. Like if we're gonna go ahead and start saying this is just bad luck, it's bad juju. All right, well, we're gonna counteract the bad luck and bad juju. We're gonna start some prayer circles. We're gonna start doing some voodoo dolls, whatever we need to do at this point to keep our guys healthy. Whether it's putting it out in the universe, putting the energy out there, speaking it into existence. I don't care. Prayer circle around our guys. So, and again, remember, guys, and I feel like I have to say this. I'm sure the people that are on right now, you guys are typically the most sensical and logical of my followers. So I do appreciate all you guys, but I do feel like I do need to say, we're heading into that part of the year where a player's going to get injured. So we really, as a fan base, guys, and again, I'm not speaking to everyone here who's watching, but as a fan base, we need to be better about lifting our guys up in times of injury. For example, Jalen Hurd tore his ACL last year. People rushed his comments to call him a bum, to call him trash, to call him garbage. Like, kid just tore his ACL. And you're a fan base of the team that carries the 49er logo and you go after one of your own, I'd have no respect for that. I don't associate with that. I literally despise it with every fiber in my body. So if you're listening, whatever, again, injuries suck. They do. It's terrible. But at the end of the day, don't come down these guys' roads telling them that they're trash and they're garbage because they just had a life-altering injury that changes the entire trajectory of their career. All right? Like, that's my only thing. It's like, I'm tired of seeing it. This fan base should do better, should be better. I'm tired of seeing it. I'm going to call it out from here on out, every time I see it, I don't want to see it anymore. If you're a fan of this team, you buy merch, you say you're a faithful. If you say you're a faithful and you come talking trash to a player on your team because he got injured, you're not faithful. You're not a fan. You're just a troll. So recognize where you stand. And I don't care. This troll culture. Troll culture exists, and troll culture is alive and well, and you'll never stop it. But just decide who you want to be. Do you want to be a troll? Do you want to be a detriment to a player on your team and his mental well-being? Is that what you want to be? Because guess what? These players see everything you say. This stuff hits them in their hearts. Because guess what? They're trying to do their job. They're trying to support their family. They're trying to live their dream. And when they get hurt and you come down their neck and you say you're trash, I got no respect for you. Literally no respect for you. So like if I see that, my favorite function on Instagram is the unfollow button. I don't have to block you. I don't have to mute you. I don't have to do anything. I just unfollow you. So you follow my content, you follow my account, I remove you as a follower. You don't follow me anymore. And I just bink off, bink, 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 bink. I don't care about the follower count. I don't care about that. Like you either say you're a fan of this team and you act accordingly, or you're just a troll and you decide what you want to be. But setting the record straight from here on out, putting it out there, putting it into the universe, we ain't about that life. So if that's the life you want to live, go for it. But just understand, it's not met with a single ounce of respect. So keep that same energy. So I don't want to see none of that. In fact, I'd rather see the opposite. I'd rather see uplifting. I'd rather see bringing good vibes, bringing positive energy, because honestly, that's what they need right now. Clearly, we're all hurting as fans. We're hurting because we have so much anticipation for these players and what they're going to become and what they could grow into. And, look, we got the jerseys. I got my jerseys. Oh, where is it? I got my jerseys hanging up. Like, I got my Bosa. I got my Kittle. Both my guys been there through injury. But it is what it is. You be there for these guys. Like, if you truly are a fan of this team and that's what you're about, then let's be about it. Do you see comments that we're talking smack about injuries? All the time? Constantly. Our fan base is notoriously terrible for talking bad on players for getting injured or playing poorly. I've never seen a fan base I've been doing this since 2017, but I've been tracking social media for a decade. I follow every fan base because I'm super into fantasy. I follow every team. I know for the most part, what other teams are doing. Our fan base is damn said it right there, Bree, toxic. And so I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So if you want to, and that's the thing, it's like, if you want to follow this content, you want to ingest this content, I have expectations for you as well. You don't have to follow, you don't have to listen, you don't have to like, you don't have to do none of that. If we don't vibe, all right, there's another page that will gladly shepherd you into the trolling. That's not going to be us. But when it comes to injuries and poor play, our fan base is, and again, you don't speak for everyone, right? You don't speak for the entire fan base. It's the subsection of vocal negative fans, but man, it's sad. Sometimes it's really sad. I think back to Brian Allen, of course, when literally signed off the streets, played that week, over Ahkello Witherspoon, and the fans came after him for getting roasted. And if you know anything about football, you blame the coaches 100% for putting in a player in that position who was not well equipped to be in that position. But guess what? Y'all came down his road and you let him know how trash he was. And it's just unfortunate because there's so much more that goes into it. Trying to think of the other guy. There's a cornerback when we played Green Bay Packers, I think on Monday Night Football. And we had a chance to win that game with CJ Beathard at Green Bay. Of course, Aaron Rodgers does what Aaron Rodgers does, comes down the field, on the last drive, wins the game. He was, I think, a rookie at the time, rookie cornerback, undrafted guy out of Iowa, like just trying to get on the roster, got thrown out there. Maben, that's who it was. There you go. Gets thrown out there, but gets eviscerated because guess what? One of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game lit him up with Davante Adams. Like, I'm going to get off my soapbox here in a second, and we'll start talking about something else. But it is something that bugs me, something that bothers me, something I don't stand for personally. So I just, again, we're in the middle of it right now. The emotions are flowing through us because, again, of the expectations that we have and what we want to see out of this team. But at the same time, come on, guys. And like I said, I feel like who I'm speaking to right now understands what I'm saying. I feel like, we're on the same vibe. I don't feel like I'm sitting here talking to people who DM players and tell them they're trash because they tore their ACL. I don't feel like that's the case, but I just had to get that off my chest real quick. Since it's the injury episode. It's the injury episode. We encompass all things injury, including our interactions when it comes to injuries. And guess what? That's one thing that I've indicated as a whole unit, as a faithful fan base, we need to get better about. We can process the injuries much better. So unfortunately for now, it's not the best situation. It's not what we had hoped for, but I can guarantee you for Justin Skule, distraught. Guarantee you for Tarvarius Moore, distraught. Wilson had an opportunity to just take a huge step in his career, distraught. So let's be very cognizant and emotionally intelligent when it comes to our guys and lift them up rather than tear them down. And again, we're going to go look for more depth. We're going to see it's next man up mentality always. But that doesn't mean that we just forget these guys. They're humans too. And I think that's one thing I always talk about is just never forget the human element of football. Just never forget that you can put yourself in their shoes and have the same thought process, same emotion that you would go through of something when your dreams get snatched away from you without your control. So again, just urge our faithful to do as they're called to be. So, just tough situation, right? It's the injury episode. It's not a fun one. This isn't a happy episode. This isn't a talking about championships, and of course we can, but it's just Bilo, it's going okay. We're talking about injuries, so like I said, it's never a super positive situation, but it is what it is. We can try and find the positivity in some of it. It's going to be more opportunities for different guys. Like I said, Jared Maiden, last year undrafted free agent out of Alabama, has a great opportunity in front of him. So unfortunately, another situation happens for one player where his dreams are altered, his life is altered, right? But at the other hand, we can look and say a door just opened for someone else. And who knows who's going to come step through that door. And there's going to be guys that are going to come in and they're going to do what they need to do. So it's tough. It's just a tough situation. I appreciate you, Bree. Thank you, as always, for your support. So fucking crazy, man. Completely unrelated. Completely unrelated. For whatever reason, when they made, so I've built like an office in my garage because I have 3 children and I live in the Bay Area, so I can't 5-bedroom homes in the Bay Area. I'm like, I'm not there yet. So I've built my office in the garage, and there's like this that their mail slot is in the garage and it's a hole, and every day the mail lady comes in and literally throws the mail through the thing. Like, I'm like, could you be any more aggressive? Could you be any more aggressive with pushing that mail through that dang slot every single time? Come on now. Man. So do you guys hear that? Do you hear that noise? It's like a meh. Do you hear that? I didn't know you guys could hear that. Brad for team bonding leader. I'll take it. I'll be Kyle's. So this is what I'll be. I'll be Kyle's emotional intelligence coach. That's what I'll be. I'll be the emotional intelligence coach. Okay, so yeah, you hear that? That so literally was like 2 days ago. I found out that our neighbor put goats in the corner of their yard that shares a fence with mine, and it's Krumal says it sounds like a baby crying almost, dude. I can't. I literally poop you not. I was sitting out there, had no clue that those goats existed, and I just hear, mwah, but they sound like children. It's the weirdest. It tripped me out so bad because I'm like, is that a kid? I was like, is that kid going insane? Like, what is that? Like my mind just went through the spin cycle. I was like, what is that? And it's a goat, couple goats. Great. So our little area, all the backyards that connect, I got 5 chickens. Our neighbors got multiple chickens. Now we got 2 goats. We're just gonna have a farm here pretty soon. So it is what it is. What it is. So that was my completely unrelated to anything 49ers. You can clearly hear the crying goats in the background. It's not a child. It's not my kids. I'm not leaving them off to their own devices to cry and whine. Those are goats. Those are my neighbor's goats. Did I grow up in the Bay Area? Yes, I grew up in the Bay Area. Been here my whole life. Don't know anywhere. Oh, that's a lie. I've lived other places, but like for college and stuff like that. But Bay Area, born and bred, baby. That's all I know. All I know. So I'm glad that the goats were able to make an appearance on the show, though. Jerry, is that you? Jerry, you calling my name? Jerry. Ooh, I should call him Jerry and Joe. Ooh, done. We named them. Didn't even have to have a naming competition. Jerry and Joe. Those are my neighbors. My neighbors are Jerry and Joe. They're goats that sound like crying babies. Cheers. So, Jerry and Joe live next door. Oh, man. Came from Facebook to Insta. Let's go. Let's go, Chase. Oh, I see you. I see you, Chase. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. We see you. We see you. So yeah, I share a yard with Jerry and Joe. Jerry and Joe the goats. So it is what it is what it is. Oh, good stuff. All right. We're at an hour. I can turn it off. I can take a couple questions. You let me know. Santa Rosa, born, Oregon living. Ooh, chasing gold. I'm just gonna call you Chase. I have always had this like thought of like moving to Oregon. I love Tahoe, like Lake Tahoe. So I've always like kind of envisioned, Oregon being just a huge Lake Tahoe kind of area. A little bit jealous. Questions? All right. Well, ask the questions. Oh, it's Alec from Insta. What's up, my guy? That's funny. I love the dual interaction. It's great. It's great. Portland is amazing. I've heard Portland's pretty damn cool, man. I'm a big outdoor guy, mountain guy, snowboarder, mountain biker, all that kind of stuff. When did I go to my first 49ers game? Oh my goodness. I don't even think I can remember. I think one of the only things I remember, it had to be like 5. I think I went with my dad and my grandpa. The biggest thing I remember was climbing on the seats to try to see something. So it was one of those times I went to a game before I knew what was going on and, could grasp really much of anything. But from Iowa, watching from Europe on deployment. Well, we appreciate your service, my guy. I couldn't imagine being overseas doing that stuff. So thank you. Thank you very much, man. And thank you for supporting, watching us. We appreciate you, man. We appreciate you. Hitting the so speaking of Oregon, or no, Seattle, Washington. It's close. They're close in proximity. I want to go to that. I want to go to that game. I want to go to that late year Seattle game. I want to go to enemy territory. We got to figure it out. If I go, we got to do like a meetup or something because we're going into enemy territory, and we got to be squatted up. I gotta have the squad with me. You never know what's gonna happen. What are the chances that the Niners sign Frank Gore? It kind of feels like it's prepped and ready to go. Honestly, that's what it feels like. It feels like if Kyle decides to make the move, it could happen. It really does. It sounds like I really believe Jed York would absolutely. I mean, I don't know if he has a say in the matter, but I know he would co-sign it. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's just, he would fill a great power back role. He really would. Because you look across the roster, I would say right now the only one you can really slot in to kind of now that power back is Trey Sermon, but he's an unproven rookie. And then with everyone else on the current roster, Wayne Gallman is I think a 3-down back, but he does excel in the pass game, and he's more of a quick twitch guy. We know what Mostert is. Every time I see Elijah Mitchell, I am like, they really drafted another Mostert. They found another Mostert and they went and got him. And I feel like that's what Elijah Mitchell is. I'm talking about the smoothness to the way their running style. I'm not even talking about the speed. It's the one cut hit. When they find the hole, they have the ability to find the hole and pop it. They look the same, man. I don't think that's a coincidence. They look pretty similar in regards to traits and play style. But we don't have a banger We don't have a. I mean, Kyle Juszczyk, he's a banger. If we really wanted to use him in that role, he said, "Can I get a Suwoo if you're a real Niner fan?" No, we ain't calling any bloods on this thing. When's Bosa coming to camp? Oh, when are the skateboarding lives when I used to do my one wheel lives? That's hilarious. I forgot about that, dude. I'd only hop on a live if I was like doing my one wheel. Throwback to the good old times, man. Throwback to the good old times. Oh my guy. Oh, this is a tough one. Nick T, thank you for the donation, man. Big time. Really appreciate it. This is a hard question. And I'll dive down the rabbit hole. Nick T on YouTube says or asks, who do I blame the injuries on? Such a loaded question. I talked about it a little bit in depth at the top of the show. But one of the things when it comes to blaming, I feel like injuries have to be viewed in a vacuum. Not one is like the other. So you have to understand the true context, and understand all of how did the injury occur, first of all? So with Tarvarius Moore, for example, non-contact is one of those things that how do you assign blame to someone? We talked about it a little bit earlier. It could have been one of those things where it's been injured before and he's played through it, weakened it by playing on it, and it could have just reached its breaking point, literally. So with a non-contact injury, I have a hard time assigning blame to anyone because non-contact typically means freak, means literally you cut one way, the same way you've cut 1,000 times before, but for whatever reason, this one time something gave out. So with Tarvarius Moore, non-contact, that one I'll chalk up to freak. Justin School tearing his ACL. You got to look at the context. How did he tear his ACL? Did he tear it in one-on-ones with no pads? Did he tear it in a warm-up drill? Did he tear it playing against air? I don't know, but I think you have to look at the context there to really understand how and why he tore his ACL. What was he doing in that situation? Because then you can pull more understanding out of the injury to really start to pinpoint where it came from. With Jeff Wilson, man, dude stood up. Dude, literally, so the story about Jeff Wilson was he was literally, I think he was eating. He stood up out of his chair and his knee popped. Meniscus gone. Now, again, we talked about injuries that. Again, these football players, they're preconditioned to play through injury. They're preconditioned to just fight through wear and tear on their bodies constantly. So you don't know how long something has been kind of messing with you. Like you could have there's a situation like I have with my knee. I messed up my knee playing this weird I still really don't understand what it is, but I messed up my knee. And then there will be times way later on, it's been years since I played football. I'll do one thing and it's I just feel like I snapped my knee in half. So it's just one of those things. It could be wear and tear from playing football for years and years and years, slowly degrading away at the actual muscle itself to the point where it was just ready. It was just ready to go. And that's just how I view it, is if you're just standing up, to me, that thing was hanging on by a thread. So for that much of a freak accident to happen, you would have to almost assume that it was already pre-injured. Um, but it, but the whole concept of blame with injuries, unless it's like that, you can assign blame to injuries. You can absolutely assign blame to injuries. For example, the coach is like, all right, guys, we're running at 75%. Guess what? There's always going to be that competitive a-hole you play against in practice who only knows one speed. And despite understanding you're not at full speed, they still go full speed and they almost relish it. There are guys like that exist now, maybe not as much in the NFL because these guys are very conscious of this kind of stuff. But that could be that could be an outcome. Not saying it is an outcome, but it could be, where one guy is just like doing all kinds of extra and the other guy isn't on the same page because he's doing what the drill asked for, and one thing leads to another. The other guy messes the other guy up because they're not at the same speed. So when it comes to assigning blame, it's a very tricky situation with injuries because, in my opinion, every injury has its own context and its own vacuum of understanding of how it occurred and why it occurred. Not one injury is like the other. So that's the thing. We just went through the 3 injuries. And it's really hard at this particular time to start assigning any kind of blame because 1, we don't have enough information, and 2, based on the information that we do have, all of those injuries are different and have different contexts behind them. So that's the tough thing with these injuries, man. It's just how do you assign blame for freak injuries? How do you do that? I don't know. Is that Wilson's fault for standing up too fast? Like, I don't know, man. It's just another unfortunate situation in regards to injury. Someone tell Raheem to not go surfing. At least with surfing, you're in the water, so it's not a lot of hard contact. I guess you could pull something surfing. You could pull something doing anything. So yeah, it's tough. So Sean asked, do we grab another swing tackle or do we move Brunskill again? I think it all kind of depends. I think Brunskill, is going to be competing for that right guard spot. If he wins it out, I would say that if they needed a swing tackle, he's still that guy. Where, like, let's say McGlinchey goes down, I'm going to go ahead and guess that Brunskill pops out to right tackle, Banks comes into right guard. So I still think Brunskill is, I'm calling him the 6th man, whether he's starting or not. Because like I said, if he's starting at right guard and, one of the tackles go down or the center goes down, that's likely Brunskill going to be swapped over to take over that spot. And then you have the next natural best player come in, for example, like a Banks to fill in at right guard. And then like say Alex Mack gets hurt. You put Banks in at right guard, you kick Brunskill into center, and you feel a lot more comfortable. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's just Brunskill is going to be, whether he's the starter or not, like I said, he could start. He'll still be the 6th man because they're going to move him wherever they need to. And that's one of the amazing things about Brunskill is that he can play all 5 spots, and that is extremely difficult to do. So we'll see. They have Sean Coleman. They have a couple other guys. So we'll see. We'll see. And again, offensive linemen don't grow on trees. If you're an offensive lineman and there are 90-man camps going across the league, and you are not on a roster right now, you are likely not a good player, unfortunately. So I can't say that the 49ers can look across the landscape and be like, oh, we have, so many good options available, because the guys that are available are likely washed, or just, guys that have never made way. I'm going to kind of pull up the see if I can find any free agent free agent list. I don't know if I'm going to find it, but it'll be interesting. So surprised that you haven't seen anyone say, let's bring Joe Staley back. I think when you look at Joe Staley and you see how much shape he's in, you'd be like, man, if he comes back, he's coming back as tight end. He's not even coming back as as a tackle. Dude looks like he could play linebacker right now. But I think he's hung up. Injuries, man. Surprising, right? Injuries. It's fortunately why he's no longer available. So I can't find a good list, but I'm sure there's guys out there. It would be so cool to have him back. Thoughts on Lincoln? Lincoln is an Iron Man. Lincoln doesn't miss games. He doesn't miss snaps. So if I expect him to be the starter this year, I think the biggest question with Lincoln is, how do you forecast him? How do you forecast him fitting into this team? I think a lot of us had anticipated him getting a extension. He didn't, and they drafted 2 offensive linemen. So I see Lincoln starting this year, but I'm not sure if he will be on the team. I got to look and see when his contract is up. I'm not sure if I don't think this is a contract year for him. But it could, and like I said, this league is transactional. So a team like the 49ers can look at Lincoln and see, okay, he's 29. He's going to be 30 heading into next year. Maybe that's an opportunity where you try and get some assets for him, because again, you traded for him, and who knows? Do I think we need to change the medical and conditioning staff? I do not. This was the same exact position I held, I think, back in 2019 off season. Again, I played football. I don't know. I can't tell you how many injuries I've had playing football, and I only played until I was like 21 or 22. Like, these guys have been playing for years, and they're older, and their bodies are breaking down, and they're going through it. So I just have a hard time, again, unless you can show me like hard data that would somehow show a trend that, based on something that is going on with the strength and conditioning staff, that is somehow leading to more injuries, then we're having a different conversation. But considering the fact that I've already seen this team fire an entire strength and conditioning staff and nothing has gotten better, I don't, again, my thoughts before they fired the original crew was, it's not their fault. But I think at a certain point, someone needs to be held accountable. Someone needs to fall on the sword. And that was them. Coming back around this year, what does that do? What does it do? So I don't know. Is it the medical staff fault that the 49ers went up to MetLife and had their entire team destroyed because of that turf? Is that the medical staff's fault? Is again, it's just it's really hard to discern. Again, Tarvarius Moore, non-contact injury, 2 weeks into OTAs. School, torn ACL, don't know the full story behind how it occurred. And then what's his name? Wilson stands up. How do you blame that on a strength and conditioning staff? So I don't know. Because again, you have to remember they've been through this. They've already went through the huge wave of injuries, decided that they needed to go in a different direction and try something new, and nothing changed. They completely pivoted. They went with a different staff, completely different ideologies, and it still remains the same. So I have a hard time, again, for one, playing a sport that is in 100% injury guarantee. And two, just it's a freak accident. Oh, the goats are back. The goats are back. So, yeah, like Big Steve said, joints and ligaments wear out. It happens all the time. And it happens at an exceptional rate when you're playing in the NFL. It happens at a very exceptional rate when it happens in the NFL. Don't mind my my cup. Leave my cup alone. Leave my cup alone. Yeah, that's Joe and Jerry back there. We named them Joe and Jerry, the goats.
I just think it's a situation where it's people just don't understand. You don't understand something, and you're like, well, isn't training, uh, the conditioning staff, like, isn't that their responsibility to ensure you limit injury? Isn't that kind of the whole reason they're around? And if that's not happening, it must be their fault. It's just like the logical thought process that people kind of land on with not really understanding. Um, but like I said, this game is brutal, and it's not just in a vacuum. They've been playing this game for some 14, 15, 16, 17 years. And guess what? After a while, your body's like, I'm done. I'm done. It has nothing to do with anyone. Has nothing to do with the preparation, has nothing to do with whatever. It's just, it is what it is. Your body at a certain point decides it doesn't like to play football anymore. This body isn't built to withstand the punishment of football. It's not. That's why everyone's always injured. It comes with the territory. Now with the 49ers, again, it feels like we have, it's to a point where it feels like bad luck. It feels like we want an answer. It feels like we need an answer. It's like there has to be a reason this is happening. It's been going on for years and years, not just a season, not just back-to-back seasons. It's years and years and years and years and years of this. So again, it goes past Kyle into Jim Tom Sula years, into the Trent Baalke years. Like Trent Baalke, if we're gonna blame, I think I found it. I think I found it, guys. If we're gonna blame anyone for these injuries, we're blaming Trent Baalke. That's who we're blaming. Trent Baalke brought on this weird energy juju on us ever since he started taking ACL prospect after ACL prospect, and they busted and busted and busted. That's, in my opinion, as a fan, where this weird injury stuff first started happening, and the energy around injuries really was heightened amongst the fan base, was when Trent Baalke decided to draft every single person who had a torn ACL. And time after time, watching them not come back after the torn ACL. So, you know what? If we're going to blame anyone, I'm blaming Baalke. I'm blaming Baalke. I'm blaming how he single-handedly torpedoed this organization, torpedoed this all-world roster. I'm blaming him. Blame Baalke. That's who I'm blaming. Feels safe. Feels like it makes sense, too. Trent Baalke's your uncle? Sorry about that. Not really. The Ram guy can chill. You should post goats though for Joe and Jerry back here. So yeah, we want to assign blame. I have an answer for you. I have the answer. It's Baalke. That's it. I figured it out. I cracked the code, guys, and I actually feel pretty comfortable about it. It's Baalke's fault. His weird energy that he brought to this organization has lingered and has haunted us for years. Blame Baalke. Blame Baalke. Oh, Chase, Alec, right? Alec says, bro, you got to tell us what you're drinking. Have you guys ever seen Beer Fest? And when they're like sitting at the top of the building and they're drinking that yellow drink. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Shout out Jerry and Joe back there. Sorry, I have terrible jokes. It's not even funny. If you've seen the movie, you might get it. If you don't, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Oh God. Blame Chip Kelly. I can deal with that. Bro, so I'm gonna have to go to the neighbors. I'm gonna have to go to the neighbors and be like, so I've named your goats and they've actually become a part of my lives. And so I think we want to incorporate them into it. And maybe we could do an interview with Joe and Jerry and see what they have to say. Oh my God. Yeah. Shout out Joe and Jerry. in the awesome pickle juice cup. It's not pickle juice. I promise. I'm not that weird. Not that weird. Thank you, Joe and Jerry. The show is sponsored by Joe and Jerry. So thank you. Not Tom and Jerry, not Ben and Jerry, Joe and Jerry. So we're gonna get them. We're gonna get them on the show here soon. We'll get it figured out. It's not pickle juice though. Is that true? Pickle juice is good for recovery? I did not know that. That actually doesn't sound far off. Pickle juice helps with cramps. I think I've heard something like that. I promise it's not. I would not be able to sit here and sap on pickle juice. Oh my goodness. What have we come to as a group of 49er fans? Where are we at? We're talking about goats. All right, so we're 1:30 in. I think now is the time. I think now is the time that we part ways. Oh, what a question. See, that's how you get me to stick around a little longer. You ask me a question as I'm saying goodbye. This happens to me every live. I'm like, all right, guys, I'm out of here. Someone asks me a question. I'm like, all right, I got that. That's a good question. I'll talk about this question. Who's better, Trey Lance or Jeff Garcia? Does anyone think that? Appreciate you, Cougar Central, my guy. But does anyone think that you, at this current state, that you could discern whether Trey Lance is better than anyone who's played in the NFL? You would have to imagine that the trajectory for Trey Lance is much better than Jeff Garcia. You have to remember, Jeff Garcia, I believe, was undrafted, went to the Canadian League, and then made his way to, like, his journey to the NFL, to the Niners, to the Pro Bowls was so much different than Trey Lance. Trey Lance has every opportunity in the world to be one of the best quarterbacks in the world. Jeff Garcia had to fight and scrap and claw for every single thing that he had. So I will not go on record and say Trey Lance is better than Jeff Garcia, especially right now. Like a statement like that, I'd actually have to see them play. Now I'll get hot takey when I start seeing them play. That I do that all the time. Like I'll see like 3 plays out of someone and be like, oh, he's the next best guy. And then you realize, like, I'm like, you can't do that. You got to go watch everything. So with Trey, sky's the limit. The setup for Trey is he's set up to be much better than Jeff Garcia, but we won't know that until Trey Lance steps in between those white lines and actually plays football. So yeah, Jeff Garcia is great, dude. I love talking to Jeff. Jeff got me so fired up when we were chatting and we did the interview. Actually got me thinking. He said some stuff about, like, because I asked him, I was like, so if you were Jimmy, you know, and you put yourself in Jimmy's shoes right now, this was pre-draft, how would you handle it? What would you do? What would you what the whole thing? He just, like, you could see it, like, clicked, because he said it. He's like, I've been in this situation multiple times. And so he started speaking from experience. And when Jeff gets going, dude, he gets hyped. You can tell he's a very high energy guy. And when he just started talking, and I think now that I'm talking about it, I should go back and post it. But when he was talking about, like, Jimmy's mindset and, like, how he should just basically say F everyone, and I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to prove ownership wrong. I'm going to prove coaching wrong. I'm going to prove every single one of you wrong. He got me so fired up. I was, like, ready to run through a brick wall. And now that I'm talking about it, I was like, I should probably post that. Because it has great relevance into the competition that we're seeing and what we've seen from Jimmy so far. I think with one of the things we've seen from Jimmy so far is that he has had that attitude, and he's come out and he's kind of attacked the offseason since being back on the 49ers. He's kind of been like, F you. He kind of has that vibe to him and that mentality, which I love. And that was my hope. You know, if you go back and you read my articles of when I traded up to 3 before it happened, drafted a rookie quarterback, and kept Jimmy Garoppolo, these are the exact things that I talked about. I said, Jimmy's the kind of guy who will get better from competition. He's the kind of guy that will be able to take this situation and I think use it to fuel him to be better and actually elevate his game. And I think with what we're seeing thus far, we've kind of seen that. Now, when it comes to elevating the play, we have seen nothing from camp in any regard to indicate really much of anything, because the only thing we see out of camp is literal warm-up videos where they're like going 50 to 75%. So I don't take much of anything away from those videos. But what you can judge, body language, demeanor, interacting with teammates, interacting with coaches, interacting with media. You can judge all of that. And you can tell in that regard, Jimmy's different. He's fired up. He's ready to go. So hopefully, today again, this is the injury episode. All we're talking about is kind of what the main topic of discussion has been: injuries. And so we can get it all out on the table today. We'll get all our pain and anguish and frustration, and we'll get it all out on the table so that tomorrow we wake up and we put it behind us and we start moving forward, and we stop, because we can't dwell on it. We can only control what we can control, and we can't control these injuries. We can't control them happening, but we can control our responses. We can control how we handle it, and we can control how we move forward. So that's what we focus on. We don't focus on the things that we can't change. We focus on the path forward. So once today is over, again, unless, and I'm sure, so this is how I imagine tomorrow to play out. So if you guys want to come back, I think tomorrow we're going to have a ton to talk about. Is when Kyle Shanahan speaks to the media, they're going to ask him about the injuries. So essentially what we're going to do is tomorrow is we'll pull all the information from the press conference. We'll pull all the information from what we've seen from the media. And so we'll hop back on a live and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about their perspective. We'll talk about how they're viewing these injuries and things of that nature. But once that's done and we talk about it, we're on to the next. And until, again, if this reoccurs, knock on wood. So that's how we'll handle this. So if you guys want to come, keep an eye out tomorrow. I'll figure out exactly what time let me see if I can actually pull it up right now of what the media availability is. I don't know if they have updated it yet, because obviously it was supposed to be today, but they have moved practice because of the injuries. So let me see here if I can find the schedule here. All right. So, well, this was supposed to be the schedule for today. So I imagine it's going to be the same schedule for tomorrow. 12, so noon, Pacific Standard Time. Practice will be open to the media, same drill, no cameras for team drills. And then around 2 o'clock is when the media portion should start. So I would say I'll probably be hopping on live after that. So maybe 3, 4 o'clock. And we'll just kind of talk about everything that came from the press conference, because I think this injury conversation is going to continue. And like I said, Shanahan has been made available. He wasn't supposed to be available today. It was only, I think it's Mike McDaniels, the OC, was supposed to be available. But since this has occurred, they pushed and added Kyle. So to me, when they add Kyle's the end all be all. So any of those questions he's going to manage, he's going to handle, he's going to head it off tomorrow. He's going to try and put our minds at ease and try and, again, assign who's responsible, who's not. Is it freak? Is it what's the situation? So as we're talking today, a lot of just oh my God. So come back tomorrow. tomorrow, bring your pickle juice. Oh, yeah. Yeah, bring your pickle juice tomorrow. We're going to make sure Joe and Jerry are ready to go, and we'll get all the stuff figured out. So stay tuned. Like I said, tomorrow, tons of information will be coming out. We will then review it, digest it, and then come back on here, and I'll tell you what I think they're saying and what they're doing and all that good stuff. Chase out here drinking C4 only. So appreciate all you guys for sticking around. So that's the schedule. If you guys care to come back, and you guys, thank you, Shane, thank you. Pickle juice and whiskey. So like I said, that's what we're looking at. That's how we'll manage it. Look for a live tomorrow, 3-4 ish. And we'll figure it out, and we'll go through it all again and see how it all plays out. Bring your pickle juice, and we're going to be ready to go. All right. So appreciate all you guys as always. If you are on YouTube, the like and subscribe goes very far. So I appreciate all of you guys who, one, are doing that, and two, consistently chopping it up with me. You guys make this a lot of fun. At the end of the day, the whole back and forth. Now I can envision Pickle Juice is going to be a part of the show for some time now. We got Jerry and Joe have been added to the roster. My laughing goats in the back. So that's we'll come up with some more stuff. The YouTube is the SF Niners, pretty much the SF Niners across all platforms. Again, liking and subscribing on YouTube goes really far in helping support me, supporting the page, and supporting everything that we're doing. And the mail lady. So we got 3 inside jokes today. That if you were here, you're blessed for eternity. Just kind of like the SF Diners came out of an inside joke. You guys are blessed. You got Jerry and Joe, you got Pickle Juice, and you got the mail lady. So it's a good time out here. It's a good time. So I appreciate, again, all you guys. As always, I'll say it again a million times. Appreciate all you guys. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again. All of you be safe. I don't want to get a DM from any one of you saying you tore your meniscus, hooping it up at the local YMCA. I don't know, you're roughhousing with the kids and you dislocated your shoulder. Don't DM me that. Like, stay safe. We have to prayer circle, remember? Prayer circle, good vibes, Pickle Juice, Jerry and Joe, mail lady. All right, we're out. Appreciate you all.